Hi, this is Anil and welcome to the video tutorial for the Learning Lad on C++ programming. So in this tutorial we're going to learn about the conditional compilation macros in C++. So all of you have learned about the if and else in C++. If some condition is true, then we were executing some statements. If this condition fails, else block, then we were executing some other statements. And similarly we had if, then else if, and like that. So here, by using this if and else, we are executing some statements, depending on some condition. If that condition is true, we are executing something else, we are executing something else. So similar to that, in C++, we have the conditional compilation macros, which allow us to compile certain parts of the code depending on some conditions. There we were only executing, here we are compiling. So here in this tutorial, just for the demonstration purpose, what we can do is we're going to define some macros. Let's say hash define Windows, and let's set this one to 1, and we're gonna define Linux and 2, and we're gonna define Mac and 3, and then we're gonna define another identifier of the macro, and it's gonna be hash define, and it's gonna be OS. So let's say our OS is Mac. So now, depending on our OS, we're gonna make our program to compile certain parts of the code. So here, for that, we're gonna use the conditional compilation macros. We have the hash if, and then hash and if, if and if, and then hash elif or else if, and we have hash else, conditional macros available. So here we're gonna use them in our program. So first we're gonna use hash if OS is equal to, let's say, Windows, we want to compile the statements between this and if. So if conditional compilation block starts from this if to and if. So whatever we write between this if and if will be compiled if this OS identifier contains value Windows. So here here for the demonstration purpose, we're just gonna use a cout, and we're gonna say you are using Windows, and then whatever we write after this conditional compilation block will be executed normally. For example, I'm going to use cout, and I'm just going to say ha ha ha, whatever it is, and then just add the end line here just to make it pretty, and I'm just going to build and run this, and we're going to get ha ha ha. And this you are using Windows is not even compiled. That's because our OS identifier is containing Mac, not Windows. So if I change this one to Windows, and if I build and run this, it executes you are using Windows, ha ha ha. Alright, here if this condition satisfies, then statements inside this block will be compiled, not executed, it's compiled. And else these statements will not be compiled at all. So now if your OS is Windows, we want to compile these statements, else we want to compile some other statements. For example, here we're just gonna use else, similar to if else we're just gonna say non-Windows user, and just end this line. And now if I build and here I'm just gonna change this one to Mac, and I'm gonna build and run this, it says non-Windows user. That's because this OS is not containing Windows, and that's why the statements in this else is compiled, and and because of that it is executed. Alright, now we have elif. So if OS is Windows, we want to execute these much statements, or the statements for Windows are going to be written here. Else if our OS is Mac, we're going to write the statement for the Mac. To do that, we're going to use elif. If something is true, we're going to compile these much statements. Else if the OS equal to Mac, compile the statements for the Mac. And here I'm gonna end this, and if I build and run this, no, ha ha ha. Alright, that's because this voice should be written in caps. I made a small mistake there, and if I build and run this, and it says Mac user, ha ha ha. Alright, and if you want to add any else block here, we can add that. So it's gonna be else, we're gonna say Linux user, and just gonna end this line. Alright, I'm gonna build and run this. It says Mac user, and if I change this one to Linux, and it says Linux user. So this is about the conditional compilation macros. So the next thing is what is the use of it. You can write a program and you can specifically write the code for each operating system. Within this Windows block, you can write the code for Windows. Within this Mac, you can write the code for Mac, and here you guys can write the code for the Linux operating systems. So this conditional compilation macros allows us to compile certain parts of the code depending on some conditions. So here we have used only equal to operator. If you want, you guys can use the operators such as greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, something like that. But here it was appropriate to use this equal to. We are checking whether this was equal to Windows or not, something like that. In some other cases, we're gonna use the less than, equal to, greater than, equal to, and all other operators. So this is it, guys. This is about the conditional compilation macros in C++. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.